Let's do it. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the OWLFI podcast with Elliot Omenson.
Nathaniel Vossman.
Bringing it at you this week. What is it? February 24th, 25th, somewhere?
I think it's the 25th now.
25th. We have survived 1 month and 25 days of the single greatest threat to democracy the world has ever witnessed.
Oh, yeah.
Which is hard to imagine when you think about Mao, Stalin, Che, Xi, Assad, Hitler, Putin.
Well, Joy Reid was telling me all along
Joy
that
Reid.
Trump is all those things.
Yeah, I forgot. The reincarnated form of all of them into one amalgamation. What's that word? Amalgamation. Yeah, it's crap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, just mash them all together.
Yeah, mash them all together and create super demon.
But now Joy Reid's out of a job, so.
Yeah, imagine that. And, okay, that's a great thing to talk about. So last night, after she gave her farewell address, the
one of her crying? Or the one of her officially on her show?
Officially on her show.
Okay.
So the ever melodramatic drama queen, Rachel Maddow, gets on. And, I just love like when they talk about telling stories with courage. Yeah, because it takes so much fucking courage to tell a story, you dumb whatever. But she gets on there and she's like praising Joy Reid. Joy Reid's the greatest person she's ever known in the entire history of her since she's been working from the age of 12. Gainfully employed was her terms.
Wow.
Out of all those jobs, Joy Reid's the single greatest human being she's ever known. But here's where it really gets good. She then goes on to completely criticize and trash the current whoever's running MSNBC.
Yeah, the parent company.
And specifically the guy that stepped in to take it over.
Yeah.
And she talks about how these it's just so funny because it's like the same shit that they bitch about Elon and Trump for. It's the single greatest layoffs. They've never done this many at once because this is not how you treat people. And we respect these people and these producers and the film people. We don't care about ourselves. We care about them. We respect them and we value them. And I'm just going, have you ever looked up the pay disparity between Rachel Maddow and all the people behind the scenes?
Probably quite a bit. I don't know how much she's making, but I know some of these contracts that are coming out for new people on TV. It's in the millions, which is crazy, like multiple millions.
Yeah. Ready for this one? So she's on a $25 million per year contract. Now, what do you think the average wage of one of the TV exec producers are behind the scenes that's on her show?
Not nearly that much.
Go to ChatGPT and ask.
Let's see.
Just before you do though, throw a number out.
80,000. Someone working it depends on what they're doing, but maybe give or take. Give or take. I'm sure there's levels to it.
Yeah, I'd like to start at change.org, but actually, it was according to ChatGPT, it was lower. It's like 67,000. I don't know how anybody's living in New York.
Well, in New York, yeah, I'm thinking now.
Or LA. Where's she out of?
Yeah.
I don't care. Any major city you're in, there's no way you're surviving off $67,000.
Yeah, $60K can get you anywhere.
Yeah, but that's
even out here. But.
That's what I was on Perplexity, and it was talking about how an assistant producer is at 67. I mean, the highest wage of somebody looked to be 120.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I would like to start a change.org petition for Rachel Maddow to show us how much she respects and values all these people that are supposedly dealing with the stresses of having to, dust off their resume and go look for another job by taking, $5 million a year should be good for you, right? You could take $20 million.
Yeah.
Right? What answer did it come up with?
Well, I was just curious about Rachel Maddow's pay because I know you said something about how much she's making, but yeah, I just think it's crazy that she took a pay cut in November.
Yeah, from 30 to 25.
Yeah, 30 to 25. And it's just if you look up their ratings, MSNBC's ratings.
Oh, it's under, Joy Reid was under 1 million people a month.
Because I was, month. And I was looking at it the other day. And it's granted, there are more liberal news networks on TV, but still, MSNBC plus CNN, their entire viewership.
Yeah.
You multiply that by 2, it's still significantly less than Fox News.
Yes.
Which is wild.
That is wild.
But yeah.
Yeah.
And you got somebody like Rachel Maddow still making $25 million.
25 million somehow. 25 million. Where the hell are they getting that kind of coin to throw their way? But you actually want a lot of people to know this, but when companies like Coke and GM and Ford and all these people, when they go buy ads, they have a buyer that buys and just places their ads with this huge broad, there's like a company that pumps these things out. Like they don't specifically say, hey, I want ads on MSNBC. So it's like you have these legacy media companies that are just getting pumped with advertising dollars, regardless as to the actual viewership.
Yeah.
It's pretty staggering. It's nuts when you get into how that actually all works. But, right, isn't the left's argument, right, that we don't need to cut anything. We just need to take from the billionaires, right? We should just tax billionaires 90%. Or we should just we need to tax all their capital, their unrealized capital gains. We just need to rob the billionaires blind to pay for everything, right? Well, why doesn't that apply to Rachel Maddow's $25 million a year ass and all of the people she loves, she respects, she values? Just not enough to like pay him decently.
Yeah, I would imagine if she just cut her pay in half and paid everyone else, that everybody be
Go ask my computer's updating. So find out how many people are behind the scenes on our show. Let's just do some basic math here. And I love the when the liberal posts on Facebook. There's 330 million people in America. If you just took 300, you could give every one of them $1 million. Yeah. It's like no, your math ain't math.
Yeah, it doesn't add up. Let's see. ChatGPT is giving one of those non-answers. Saying, it's not publicly disclosed, but I'm sure you could squeeze out an answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how many people do you really need to produce that TV show?
Yeah, I mean, there's not that much going on.
I mean, a couple cameramen, a couple producers, you know?
Let's see. It says, if I had to make an expert estimation, the Rachel Maddow show likely has 30 to 50 people working behind the scenes.
All right, let's go 50.
Yeah, we'll go 50.
Let's go 50. So divide, let's take her down to 5 million. Okay, let's divide 20 million by 50 people. How big of a pay raise can we give everybody? If Rachel Maddow was somehow able to eke out a living off of $5 million a year for being a drama queen and over-exaggerating everything and lying to everybody every day, how big of a pay raise could she give?
It would be a $400,000 pay raise.
A $400,000 pay raise. So really, what you could do instead of giving a $400,000 pay raise, you can employ a lot of people at $120,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
So all those people that she values, that she respects, they're the people that she cares about. It's not us that we're caring about. Yeah, no shit, it's not you yet. You've been making $25 million or more for how long?
I just find it crazy that she's even making $25 million.
Oh, it's wild. Yeah. Well, again, because her impact, right? Because she's so extreme and so nutty, her impact is much bigger than her viewership.
I don't know. You think if she's having a big impact, she would also have a reasonable viewership.
Well, she's entertaining to make fun of and talk about, right?
That is true. I want to see how much someone like, what would be the equivalent on Fox News to Rachel Maddow? Would that be like
Hannity?
Hannity?
Yeah, because Rachel Maddow is their flagship person.
Is she on late night or what?
She's on late night. Okay. She's the primetime spot. But she is only for the first 100 days of Trump's presidency, in which case then she drops down to 1 day a week and there's a guy that they're bringing in. Oh, now that was also one of her other complaints. MSNBC has 2 people of color, unwhites. Didn't we cover that already? Don't you just put in front of something? So they have 2. They have 2 unwhites, and then one that it was really interesting to me that she differentiated between the 2 people of color and then the Asian woman. That was wild. She literally said she thought it was really horrible that we have 2 people of color who are both losing their slots.
I didn't hear this.
And then she goes, and so-and-so like Fang or Wang or something, the last name was clearly Asian, is losing their spot on the weekend. And I'm like, did you just like separate out the Asian from being a person of color?
Yeah.
Or now I'm going to give her the benefit of that. I don't like to judge people's motivations, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it was just the fact it was a weekend person and not a,
Yeah.
a weekday anchor, right? Let's just say that was the reason they're in different buckets and not the fact that two were darker skinned than the other one. And Asian doesn't count as being a minority for some reason to Democrats. Unless, of course, COVID comes along and Trump refers to it as the Wuhan flu. Then all of a sudden, did you notice how fast that Stop Asian Hate disappeared? I mean, that's the one thing the left has ever...
you don't even hear it anymore.
I have never seen a quippy little slogan solve a problem faster in my life. Like, we just barely for the Super Bowl ended racism with the NFL. They just took end racism off the field, whatever that's called, end zones.
Yep.
Right? It took years to solve racism, to have NFL cure us of it all. It took like a couple months to have stopped Asian hate somehow just by saying stop Asian hate, hashtag, right? But anyways, I digress. So she did also talk about how undefensible, I think she used the word undefensible it is, that MSNBC, the bastion of left-wing nut jobs, just terminated the two people of color and the Asian lady from their hosting gigs.
I was like,
and they're replacing Rachel Maddow with a white man.
Well, I hear, I don't know if it's the same time slot or not because they're doing so much mixing up now. But I thought I heard that they're doing like a kind of like a panel show during that time slot.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
It might be.
And I know Jen
Psaki.
How do you say her last name?
Yeah, Jen Psaki.
Jen Psaki.
So I think it's like,
I do love Psaki. I like the chilled kind.
Yeah. Let's see. I saw it. I forget their names, but a couple people that are like, if that is replacing the Readout show, the Joy Reid show, I'm like, dude, that's. I don't know what they're trying to. I'm not sure what they're trying to go after. I'm looking it up.
Dude, this entire time we've been talking, my computer's been working on updates. It's at 27%.
Yeah, that might be done by the end of the podcast.
And so while you're looking that up, I'm super excited about our new podcast room. It is gonna be spectacular, and I think we'll have it done this week.
Oh yeah, the new setup.
Yeah, the new setup.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I can't wait to announce our sponsor. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that got people already trying to support. So like that means a lot. So
yep.
So Rachel Maddow, or not Rachel Maddow, Joy Reid, the Readout show. So it's getting replaced by a panel show with Alicia Menendez, Michael Steele, and Simone Sanders Townsend.
Yeah, Michael Steele used to be the head of the GOP, right? The G, what do they call it? Wasn't he like the Republican National Committee chairman?
But
he is a POC, person of color.
He is
maybe
a person of color.
Maybe that makes up for his sins.
What nationality is he? I've never known.
I think he's
got a mustache that throws me off. I can't tell.
Isn't he?
But yeah, like Jen Psaki was promoted. I did hear about that to the primetime slot at 9 p.m. And that's replacing Alex Wagner.
And Alex Wagner I think he's who's coming in to replace Maddow.
Yeah, because he's keeping he's staying on. He's not fired, but he's remaining on MSNBC. So
ask who's taking Rachel Maddow's slot, because I thought it was Alex Wagner.
It probably is.
It might be another guy.
Let's see. Her show replaces. So Rachel Maddow's losing her time slot too?
Yeah, well, she's in for 100 days.
Yeah.
Okay. First, she's there to cover the 100 days.
Okay, so I think I assume it
of evil incarnate's second term.
Because right here it doesn't say exactly, but it does show that she was taking place for the first 100 days of the term.
She had been booted,
and that replaces the Alex Wagner tonight.
Yeah. Okay, so then he comes back
I think so. That's what
Yeah,
it sounds
she,
like.
she was booted and replaced with him, and then Trump got elected, and somehow they thought it would be a good idea to bring the woman that every day would get on air. And I have inside sources that Trump is going to step down as part of a plea deal in order to protect his children from going to prison for life. Every day. She told her viewers this. Every day. It never, ever, ever happened. And somehow she still is a show.
Yeah.
Multiple unnamed.
Yeah. I watch.
Top level.
I see other news outlets, and they're fine. They're fine. They might not agree with me, but they're fine. But then MSNBC is just on a different level.
Oh, it is.
And it's got to be intentional because
it is intentional. They saw a market.
That panel,
like, I don't fault them for it, right? You found a market, right? All the people that think there's nothing wrong with transgenders competing against, people, all the people that think there's nothing wrong with, demanding that you use somebody's pronouns, regardless of what your own personal beliefs are, there's a significant portion of the population that appeals to.
Yeah.
And hey, go make your money.
Yeah, I just wish more of them were white, so I would sound less racist, like talking so much shit. But we talked at least enough shit on Rachel Maddow, so that was the white. But like this, like Simone Sanders, Townsend person, like I've seen her take some like stupid stances. Joy Reid is the most racist person I've seen on TV in my life. Yeah. It is insane what you can get away with when you're a black female.
Absolutely,
it is wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not really sure like what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah,
like they're just kind of operating in their own.
I think
space.
they're probably floundering.
Yeah.
So
I think I would guess just like the people who actually watch like MSNBC, like I guess they probably just don't have any options. Like this is.
Oh, it is. It's the only place to go if that's what you're looking for, right? Yeah. So anyways, all right. So what are we talking about today?
So we're talking a little bit about DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency.
Sweet.
So
the Department of terrifying emails requiring you to post
five bullet points.
Five bullet points of what you accomplished last week.
Very scary stuff.
The terror.
Yeah. So,
the inhumanity.
This is like, I think.
The time you want all those employees to waste out of their day.
Yeah. They're acting like it's a big cost.
You're stopping them from accomplishing whatever it is.
Yeah, in those 2 minutes that it takes to type
whatever it is. Nobody knows.
I even asked ChatGPT how long does it take to do the 5 bullet points, and ChatGPT is like, it should take no longer than 5 minutes. So even ChatGPT.
Well, I bet you Elon hacked ChatGPT and made it tell you that.
Probably. So with how much news it's garnered, like it's crazy to think that this time, I think just 6 months ago, like this is like completely like not even something that was really part of like Trump's campaign. It wasn't until like Elon Musk and Trump talked on the X call way back during the campaign cycle, and Elon Musk had pitched it during that call, and I don't think Trump even like thought he was serious at first, so Trump just kept talking, and then Elon Musk pitched it once or twice more, and then Trump's like, "Yeah, I like that," and sure enough, it just like evolved into what it is today.
Yep.
And it's definitely gotten a lot of news for kind of, I guess, how much it's like stirring things up.
Yep.
Which personally, I mean, I like to see, but there's a lot of people who, especially on the left-wing media, MSNBC, that are kind of like promoting Musk as like President Musk, saying that Trump's taking a back seat.
Oh yeah. I love how you can put a person in charge of one thing. The entire media latches onto it, reports on it endlessly and breathlessly, and then claims that that's the number one thing that Trump's doing. No, you dumb fucks. That's the number one thing you're reporting on.
Exactly.
That's not the number one thing.
Yeah.
That's a small piece and everything going on.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly my view. Because, like, don't get me wrong, I love Doge.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm really into it. So I like consuming this content.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like, I mean, it is a big part, but it's not everything Trump's doing. But they're reporting on it so much.
To everything he's doing.
They reported on it so much to the point where it's like, that's why they start calling President Musk, because like, all the reporting on Doge,
they're doing that.
Yeah.
That's what they do all the time, though.
And it's like, well, of course, like, Elon Musk is going to seem important when it comes to Doge, because Elon Musk is running Doge. Like Trump Trump's the president. He's not running DOGE.
Yeah, why would he?
Yeah. So, I've always thought that's funny. And then also like the whole constitutional crisis.
Oh, my goodness.
Because they like to throw buzzwords.
Oh,
So
they
crisis is a big buzzword. Constitution always like gathers attention because everybody's like talking about Constitution this. And I mean, this goes on both sides of the aisle. It's like they're always throwing around the Constitution.
Well, I want to tell you about something that happened to me this week. Okay. So I remember back in the 90s when Hillary Clinton was put in charge of trying to implement socialized healthcare in America. And there was this huge backlash against the Clinton administration. It's pretty much viewed as their shellacking they took in the midterms, and the Clintons dropped it. But one of the things that they did is they ran focus groups afterwards. And from those focus groups, they shifted the language from socialized healthcare, because it had a very negative connotation due to the word socialism, right, which it should, to single-payer healthcare, because nobody knows what the fuck that means. So you can now say single-payer healthcare. I'm fighting for single-payer healthcare. Well, who's single-payer? It's the government. It's socialized healthcare, but we changed the word on you. You don't get it, and now it has a better meaning to it, right? So I love responding to these surveys and stuff, and so I've gotten myself into this where I'm one of the people that gets the surveys, all right? And so just recently, and I'm going to grab my phone real quick. I got to partake in a survey from the Democrat Party.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, where they're trying desperately to figure out their messaging. Okay? And I just want to read you. So this is one of the questions. Which of the following is the biggest concern for you personally, even if none are exactly right? A, Donald Trump and Republicans are making massive cuts to programs that people rely on, including Medicaid, veterans health care, and child care programs. B, Donald Trump and Republicans are enacting policies like tariffs that will raise costs for working people. C, Donald Trump and Republicans are focused on giveaways and cutting taxes for billionaires and big corporations. Or Donald Trump and the Republicans are allowing unelected billionaires to have too much power in the government. Now, at this point in time, I didn't really realize what the point of the survey was, but I started to figure it out. And so then it got to the messaging, and it would ask you questions. It would have the same message, but worded differently 5 times. Which one of these impacts you the most? And so literally, like, it gives you this behind the scenes. It's like pulling the curtain aside, seeing Oz back there, and they're literally desperately trying to figure out how to convince you that this shit's all bad. I mean, and it's all psychological mind games. It's all wordplay. It's all manipulation. And I literally got a front row view to how they're trying to figure it out, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because, like, the thing that would help them the most is probably the easiest. Well, theoretically, the easiest, just having like organic, like rhetoric.
Of course,
like
organic is always best because it's real.
Because like Trump, like stuff like originates from Trump. Like Trump is like what kind of, at least on the right, like
no, it
starts,
is.
like
it's organic.
Yeah, and
you know how you know it's organic, and this is one of the things that really blows me away. Last night, Rachel Maddow, after she got done crying about all of the worker bees that she cares so much about, just not enough to pay them anything, she went on to talk about how, like, Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard and these people that have been put in charge of certain divisions of the government emailed out emails to certain groups of their people telling them not to respond to Elon's 5 bullet point request.
Yeah.
She didn't praise any of them for doing so, right? Here they're doing what she wants them to do. It's not good enough, right? It's just them being spineless cowards and having their own personal interest at stake, and that's overriding their their need to get on the knee and kiss the ring to Trump, right? I'm just sitting here going, as I was listening, it's really amazing to listen to people. They're not used to anybody in their party having differences of opinion, disagreeing with one another, right? They're used to this lockstep. We're going to put we're all going to agree that Joe Biden is the single smartest person in the room. We're all going to agree that Kamala Harris is the second smartest person. And we're all going to agree she's the person to take his place. Like, you're not allowed to like step out of line. You're not allowed to disagree. You're not allowed to have any kind of counter arguments. They're just always all lockstep with each other. And to see a group of people where it's like, I'll post stuff that I don't like that Trump's doing, and the people on the left, oh, it's about time you saw the light. I'm like, what light? Yeah. There's nobody here like it's not that I'm seeing light. I've always been capable of being able to look at what my leadership does and acknowledge what I appreciate and what I don't, and I have no problem telling you what I don't.
Yeah, and you got your own belief set.
Yeah.
In the first place. So,
yeah,
like,
and we
one's going to do. Exactly
and you're all a week ago we're screaming that all these people Trump put in would just do whatever it is he wanted. Well, now they're not doing whatever it is he wants, and you're making up bullshit reasons to tear them down for that too. Which one do you want?
Well, yeah.
The fact of the matter is, we can acknowledge that Trump and Elon and none of these people are perfect. A lot of what they're going to do, we're for, which is why we voted for them. Some of what they're going to do, we're not going to be for. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, and then the whole argument that like these people that Trump's put in these positions, like that they're going to do exactly what he wants. It's like that's part of what we like want as voters.
Well, we do want them to carry out the intent of what we elected them for.
Exactly.
We absolutely did that.
Yeah.
Right? There's nobody's hiring people and putting them in power beneath them to fucking be a pain in their ass every day.
Well, yeah, because like for example, you hire me.
Yeah.
You don't expect me to just like. I mean, yeah, I try to do what's best.
Yeah.
But like if you
and I'm going to give you and I wouldn't hire you if I'm going to micromanage your ass.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like it's the same thing with Trump. Like he hires these people for a reason to get the job done.
Yeah, because they're capable of doing it.
They have autonomy to do it, but
And now you might go too far one direction. I might rein that back a little bit because but it's not like we're also not going to have conversations about it. And you don't have a shot to convince me. You're right.
Well, exactly. And so I think that argument's stupid. And then I didn't hear about Rachel Maddow saying the spineless things, but it's like they would have been spineless if they had them said.
Oh, exactly. No, that's my
They
whole
would have
point.
been more spineless. How many spines you got?
Seriously, a week ago, they were all horrible people that were put into place because they're going to do whatever Trump says. 1 week later, the very first thing, they don't do what he says. And now they're pieces of shit who are just out after their own self-interests.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't
make any sense.
No, it just shows you how partisan, how manipulative, how corrupt they all are.
Do you know what like Kash Patel's reasoning and Tulsi Gabbard's reasoning?
No, I mean,
I heard they did. I heard that Kash did. I didn't hear about Tulsi, but like,
well, it was like people in because what's Tulsi running?
She's like let's see what official.
Does it have something to do with national security?
Yeah, what is?
Yeah. So basically, right? Like, and I think there would have been a better thing to do than say, don't respond, right? I mean, Elon himself said, don't post anything that's classified. Don't respond with anything that's classified, right? You don't need if I'm a CIA Wetworks Black Ops operative, I don't have to say, well, I assassinated a warlord in Borneo and right? Nobody's asking for that, you dumb shit.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I had 3 things on my list to do. They're classified. I got 2 of them done. I made some progress on the other one. Like, how hard is this?
Yeah. Because I think it's also definitely an assignment that's 100% a completion grade.
Absolutely.
It's like, I'm pretty sure I saw Elon Musk post on X talking about how like his biggest thing is like, he just wants to see like who responds because he said there's people in government that are working so little that they don't even check their
even check their email. Exactly. And then this was my favorite one too. Rachel Maddow. We don't know if he's going to run all these emails through an AI program. What's wrong with that again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's using AI for everything. That's the whole point.
I mean,
Efficiency.
Like, I know you guys would like us to go to that cave with the elevator that takes an hour to get to the fucking bottom, and they print everything off my hand and hire. See, we're creating jobs by hiring 100,000 people to review all these email responses, and you shitty ass Republicans want to run them through an AI program and get it done in 5 minutes with one person at the helm. Yeah, we do. You're all fired. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, they love promoting the whole jobs idea.
Yeah, look at us creating jobs. No, you're not creating jobs. You're creating leeches off the back of the taxpayer. That's not jobs.
Yeah, like I said, if somebody's got their own company and they want to like employ more people and not utilize AI and stuff, like that's great. That's fine. But like the one company or the one entity that I want to like actually like not be expensive. It's just the government, because like our whole country's riding on it. And so I don't know why we're not already using AI for most of these things.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But yeah, kind of moving on to some of the things that have ruffled these feathers and gotten people all worked up. Like I know one of the first things that got a lot of attention is the USAID. And I mean, that's still getting attention, but it's pretty controversial, I guess, like one way or the other. So obviously USAID's like created with a good intention. John F. Kennedy is one who signed it into law, I think, with the executive order. But
yeah, see, that's where I would disagree. I don't think these things are ever created with good intention. I think the people created them know exactly what they're doing.
Well, I also don't think. I think a lot of these things that are created, like, are created without like the expectation of the 2020 Democrat Party kind of, and and political landscape as a whole, and the right side too, because I feel like both sides are too stubborn to actually agree on things that we should agree upon.
Yeah.
So that goes both ways. So it's originally supposed to kind of be a program to give money around the world to build goodwill or develop certain parts of the world.
I understand the euphemisms, the frosting, the sugar coating.
Make it sound good, yeah.
Yeah. But you can never convince me you have good intentions when you're robbing one person to give their money away to someone else.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I don't care what the excuse is. I don't care how big of a travesty that you're gonna present is waiting on the other side. If you don't allow me to, if you don't have me allow you to rob one person to give it to someone else, I refute the idea that there can ever be good intentions behind that. You could tell me it's, infants with cancer, and we have to take money from this person in order to provide for their care. That's two wrongs don't make it right.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it difficult just because like there are people left or right that think that there is some like potential value.
I know I'm on the outside of this one.
Well, I'm on the theoretical inside. It's just like it doesn't work, like at least with what we're doing, and some of it is just straight up waste. And we'll kind of get into that.
Well, and it always starts off as one thing and morphs into a monster.
Yeah, and then it's
hydra.
It's hard to reverse.
With thousands of heads you can never cut off.
Yeah.
And USAID is a prime example of that. There is no other outcome. I don't care how if you really were trying to create that for a good reason, there is literally the outcome that is USAID today was inevitable. And that's why you can't ever let it take root in the first place.
Yeah. And
hey, let's get into this one, all right? If my computer would ever work, I pulled up a speech delivered by a congressman in 1788. 1788.
Pretty wise guy.
Nailed it. He literally described what the end result would be if you allowed the federal government to tax the states. 1788. He described all these problems. It was wild.
Was that James Madison or?
It was not James Madison. It was some guy I'd never heard of, actually.
Okay.
I think I have it on my computer, but
still loading.
Yeah, it actually said it was done, and so then I tried to log into it. Now it's like it's promising me good things are coming your way, similar to almost every other politician running for office. Good things are coming your way. Oh, there we go. We're up. Give it a couple more seconds, but yeah. So I was actually looking for another speech that was delivered where this guy really succinctly put it, and he talked about how. He just explained why it can never be okay, even if it's like a little old lady's house that's on fire. You cannot take money from one group of people and give it away. Like, that is not the role of the federal government. It is extremely dangerous and harmful. And that was actually the talk I was looking for when I found this other one.
So you're pulling that one up?
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if my computer's going to have the tabs saved after going through whatever it just
Well,
did.
if you feel bold enough to check your history on podcasts. You can go back and find it.
Absolutely. I got no problem doing that.
So is that what you're showing me the other day though?
Yeah. That was what I was showing you the other day.
I'm trying to think who it was. It was a name I recognize. I don't know why I thought it was James Madison. I think it's around the same time frame.
No, it definitely wasn't James Madison.
Find it in your history?
No. It's really weird.
Because we were just showing that. We were just looking at that.
Yeah, it was just like last time we were in here.
So that would have been Friday, maybe.
And wasn't it in a was it in Perplexity or something?
Man, I don't remember what website it would have been. Here, while you look for that, I'm gonna run to the restroom real quick.
All right, you do that.
Find it.
Oh.
Damn, I don't know what you've been searching on the web that's that hidden in your history.
Right?
Do you have your history pulled up? Or you just pull go back to last Friday?
No, it had like 6 tabs, but it doesn't. I tried to open them up and then it like disappeared.
But you pull up your Control H, pull up
Yeah.
history.
I did all that.
Interesting.
Friday, PMAX, Home Gym, Smith Machine, Home Gym,
Maybe it was
Fitness Equipment,
Thursday.
RIT Keep, Join Meeting Zoom. Thursday, welcome my profile, home, let's get you set up, review and sign documentation, Apple MacBook Pro. And it's like not here. I don't know why.
Next time we find something good like that, we'll bookmark it.
Right? Oh, it was George Mason
Yeah.
from the Virginia Ratifying Convention, June 1788. You were close. you like having Hank here? You like having Hank here? All right, what time is it? 5 minutes. What do I got going on at 10? My mom. All right, let's talk about this speech real quick, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, so so I found this speech. It's by George Mason, the ratifying convention. It's the Virginia ratifying convention, June 4th, 1788. All right, and so I'm just going to summarize a lot of stuff, right? So he talks about whether the Constitution is good or bad. The present clause clearly discovers that it is a national government and no longer a confederation. He says, I mean that clause which gives the first hint to the general government laying direct taxes. Right. So basically what he's referencing is that we were supposed to be a confederation of states. Right. States were supposed to have the greatest amount of control over the individual. And that's for a whole slew of reasons. In fact, when you start to really understand this, it's why the Fed is comprised of 12 banks. There was 12 regions. Those regions had different economic concerns, different cultures. Right. We weren't supposed to, we weren't supposed to be a melting pot in the sense of we're all the same. We all think the same. We all want the same things. Our forefathers understood that we came from all over different parts of the world. We are a nation of immigrants. And we're not all the same. We don't think the same. We don't have the same religions. We don't have the same customs, all these things, right? So we were supposed to be this confederation of states. And the federal government was supposed to be very limited in what it did, primarily just being the military. And there's one other thing I can never seem to remember, probably because it's not important. But he says that the assumption of this power of laying direct taxes does in itself entirely change the confederation of the states into one consolidated government. This power being at discretion, unconfined, and without any kind of control, must carry everything before it. The very idea of converting what was formerly confederation or consolidated government is totally subversive of every principle which has hitherto governed us. These are not light words, right? The power is calculated to annihilate totally the state governments. And what's really funny right now is the shoe's on the other foot. It's the governor of Maine that's refusing to cooperate with the order to not allow men to compete against women in schools. And what did Trump do? He did exactly this right here. The same thing that's been being done to us by Democrats, he's now doing to the Democrats. He said, then good luck getting federal funding. And her response is, well, I'll see you in court. Well, your party set the precedent for this, right? And in 1788, George Mason told you this would happen. And now you're having to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right? So he says this power is calculated to annihilate totally the state governments. Will the people of this great community submit to be individually taxed by two different and distinct powers? Amazingly enough, you have half the nation screaming, begging to be taxed by two different powers and as much as possible. Oh, because they're lied to. Oh, no, it's never going to be you. It's never going to be you. It's just going to be them. It's never you. It's always them. We're just going to round up them, not you. So he asked, will they suffer themselves to be doubly harassed? He says, these two concurrent powers cannot exist long together. The one will destroy the other. The general government being paramount to and in every respect more powerful than the state governments, the latter must give way to the former. Is it to be supposed that one national government will suit so extensive a country, embracing so many climates and containing inhabitants so very different in manners, habits, and customs? I mean, he's literally laying out all the problems that we're currently dealing with, right? So he says, it is ascertained by history that there never was a government over a very extensive country without destroying the liberties of the people. History also supported by the opinions of the best writers show us that monarchy may suit a large territory and despotic governments ever so extensive a country, but that popular governments can only exist in small territories. Is there a single example on the face of the earth to support a contrary opinion? Where is there one exception to this general rule? Right now, all the leftists are all going to start screaming about Norway, Denmark, and Sweden.
That's kind of proving the point, though.
It's exactly the point, right? Those are not diverse nations. They're not sprawling in territory, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to read the whole thing, but man, is it good. So he says, I solemnly declare that no man is a greater friend to a firm union of the American states than I. But, sir, if this great end can be obtained without hazarding the rights of the people, why should we recur to such dangerous principles? I mean, it's just amazing to me how this guy in 1788 knew what was going to happen. He said, here's one for you, right? He says, but why shall we give up to the national government this power, so dangerous in its nature, and for which its members will not have sufficient information? We can't even get it without everybody on the left screaming about it being an atrocity to try and get sufficient information.
It's wild that that gets pushed back.
Right? Is it not well known that what would be a proper tax in one state would be grievous in another? Right? He said 65 members at the time. Now how many is it? 400 and something?
In
Congress?
It's 435.
Yeah. So he said 65 members cannot possibly know the situation and circumstances of all the inhabitants of this immense continent. When a certain sum comes to be taxed and the mode of levying to be fixed, they will lay the tax on that article which will be most productive and easiest in the collection, without consulting the real circumstances or convenience of a country, with which, in fact, they cannot be sufficiently acquainted. I mean, I don't know who this guy is, but I'd love to resurrect him and have him run for president in 3 years, 4 years from now. He said, why leave the manner of laying taxes to those who in the nature of things cannot be acquainted with the situation of those on whom they are to impose them, when it can be done by those who are well acquainted with them? Right? The source of the solution to any problem is always best sourced the closest to the problem. Right?
Yeah.
Your city and your states are supposed to be the entities that tax you. Our educational system is supposed to be funded by property taxes at a state level, right? People that can choose what's appropriate for their group, their culture, their class, right? Oh, yeah, so this is good too. If we give the general government the power of demanding their quotas of the states, with an alternative of laying direct taxes, in case of noncompliance, then the mischief would be avoided, and the certainty of this conditional power would, in all human probability, prevent the application, and the sums necessary for the union would be then laid by the states, by those who know how it can best be raised, by those who have a fellow feeling for us. Right? He's just making a case that it's the people closest to you that should be having this power, right? Give me leave to say that the same sum raised one way with convenience and ease would be very oppressive another way. Why not then leave this power to be exercised by those who know the mode most convenient for the inhabitants, and not by those who must necessarily apportion it in such manner as shall be oppressive? So, I mean, and it goes on and on and on, and I don't want to, I could spend a whole hour just reading this and pointing out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it provides a good point, though, because with our country being so vast, it's like different parts of the country are made up of completely different people with completely different views. And so to have a federal government that has so much, I guess, power, it just, I guess, not so fitting.
Yep. Yeah. So, anyways, it's just amazing to me that, like, what happens, right, is that people go through this cycle. Different people call it different things. I was raised being taught it, being with the term the pride cycle. It's almost like an educational cycle, right? It's like we used to take pride in reading this diverse set of books, and I don't mean books on gay sex and all that shit that, like, everybody seems to, half the country thinks is supposed to be in elementary schools today. Or that you're a book banner if you don't allow those in your school. But I mean, like, actual real books that get into like logic and the state of human progression, and these people clearly were well read and understood like the history of humanity, and they had learned lessons from that, and they had built a government that as best it could took all that into account, right? And we're so far from teaching any of this stuff in school anymore that like nobody, most people don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, I just think just about any of the politicians from 250 years ago, 200 years ago would see the state of affairs today and probably be in pretty solid support of the Republican Party.
Oh my goodness.
Just because of how much like government's like overstepped. Like I think it would be like unbelievable for anybody 200 years ago to believe what's going on today.
No, they'd be taking up arms and they'd be violence is the answer.
I was going to say, yeah, maybe it wouldn't be so good. But
I saw this great meme the other day. It said, this guy goes, violence is never the answer. Cracks open a history book, starts reading it. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's been that way for all of mankind, but
pretty much.
Now it's not.
I've never seen an argument that can't be won by just eliminating your opponent.
This is true.
That's a bad joke.
But talking about that Maine person, I couldn't find anything on Maine, but I think it's pretty crazy. Like the New York Times had a poll just last month, and it found that 79% of respondents oppose allowing transgender women to participate in women's sports.
Yes.
And that's nationally. And so Maine is fairly in the middle, all things considered. So I think it's pretty safe to say at least probably 70% of people in Maine oppose it. And so the fact that Governor of Maine's even like pushing back on Trump on it is kind of wild.
Yeah, so here you go. Maine governor clashes with Trump over transgender athletes at the White House, February 24th, 2025. Trump Friday reiterated his threat to yank Maine's federal funding if the state doesn't comply with his unilateral ban on transgender athletes participating in women's sports during a terse exchange with Governor Janet Mills at a White House event. He called out Mills for not complying with his executive order, which is in conflict with the Maine law that allows transgender athletes to compete in women's sports. Local Republicans, buoyed by the president's edict, are trying to change the law, recently ramped up the pressure campaign. He directly asked her. After noting the NCAA was compliant with his executive order, he then asked if Maine's governor was in the room. She was. Trump says, "Are you not going to comply with it?" He asked her. Mills, seated at a table, replied that she'll comply with state and federal law. He says, we are the federal law. Trump said, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. See you in court, Mills replied, as the room full of U.S. governors watched in stunned silence. There you go.
Crazy.
Yep. You voted for it.
And
lady, this is what you wanted. You wanted a federal government that was all powerful, all encompassing, stripped you of your tax dollars, redistributed them, and now you get to deal with it.
Yeah. And not to get too off topic, but kind of going down the same route here. Like I'd always enjoyed hearing Riley Gaines talk about.
Oh yeah. Swimming. By the way, I have a picture of myself with her.
Really?
Yeah. Nice. I took Abby, my assistant. We went and hung out with Riley Gaines and Michael Orr from Blindside.
Oh really?
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I'll find those.
The star matchup.
Post them. Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. What a weekend.
But with that story, like I had always known about it, and I listened to her on Joe Rogan's podcast, and it was great. But dude, I didn't realize how messed up that situation was.
Were they like literally like physically assaulted her and took her hostage?
I didn't hear.
Holy shit! The ever tolerant left on a college campus where she was speaking overran her security, physically assaulted her, and locked her in a room and held her against her will because she dared believe that women's sports should be played by women.
Such a crazy, crazy thing. Like that.
It's fucking insane, these people.
Because, like, And like the whole Leah Thomas thing, like I knew Leah Thomas was like transitioning, but like I guess I didn't realize that like basically, not to
no, the guy
use
went
bad
from
language, but the Leah Thomas had a like in the same weeks around the same time frame that he beat Riley Gaines, also had a whole ass cock.
Yeah.
And was having sex with women.
Yeah.
And like I've never understood the argument of like, oh, it's such a small number of people.
Yeah, you do have
if it's such
here.
a small number of people, why like if it's such a small number of people, then how the hell is someone even getting to this level? Like if you're talking about just a couple people, that'd be like me saying, oh, there's just a couple people. Like,
well, that should actually tell you the problem, right?
Yeah, well,
right?
Exactly.
So if it's this tiny inconsequential number of people, and yet, so I'm pretty sure she was a 14-time NCAA champion, okay? And Leah Thomas, they both tied for 5th place in a national swimming championship.
Yeah.
So if it's such a tiny number of people, then how is it that the few that are just what, phenoms? No, the guy went from 417th place to tying a 14-time female national champion.
Yeah, and Leah Thomas had only started taking hormone replacement therapy 3 years prior, which is not that long.
And I think it's a bullshit argument in the first place.
Well, I think people who are in hormone replacement therapy should automatically be banned already. Whether you're a guy taking hormone replacement therapy,
sure,
as a guy like taking testosterone, TRT, whatever.
Sure, but you're telling me that if Michael Phelps waited till he was grown and developed and then started taking hormone replacement therapy, that would defeat his giant ass 8-foot wingspan, his massive hands and feet that are built like flippers.
Oh yeah, you ask ChatGPT and
show me a woman built like him.
Yeah, you can get the truth from ChatGPT, and like it was talking about how like Leah Thomas had legitimate advantages, and those 3 things that were listed primarily were height, wingspan, and lung capacity. All 3.
I wonder where all that came from.
Like height, wingspan, lung capacity. What more could you ask for in a swimmer? You know,
what more could you ask for in almost any sport?
Yeah, isn't that kind of like the whole point of swimming? Like
swimming,
lungs, big lungs, and
basketball.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to bet you. What are the 3 again? Height,
wingspan.
I'm going to bet you fucking ping pong.
Oh, just about anything. Yeah. And
I mean, show me a sport in which height, wingspan, and lung capacity are detriments.
And like also, in my opinion, outside of all that, even if the body size is the same, the part that I also struggle to wrap my head around is how someone on hormone replacement therapy doesn't have an inherent advantage over someone who's not. Because let's say you get like a room full of like girls and whatever hormone levels they all have, like probably some are more optimal than others, like, your diet, nutrition, sleep, this and that can all affect your hormones. But you've got somebody who's taken exogenous like injections or whatever form of medication they're taking for their hormones. It's like it's exogenous. So like you're going to have like an optimal level. Even if you have a bad diet or even if you get poor sleep, like your hormone levels are going to stay optimal because your body's not producing it naturally. You're taking like the same thing goes. Like if you're a guy taking testosterone, maybe you're just taking a TRT dose. You're just replacing.
Yeah.
But you're still going to have an advantage over someone who's natural, even though you're not taking like
absolutely
a super high dose.
Yeah.
And so that's also what I struggle with. It's like, dude, like forget all the wingspan, even though that's even bigger. It's like,
it's way bigger. It's way bigger. Your body was built from birth for something.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the ever tolerant left held her hostage, barricaded in her room for over 4 hours.
Sounds about right.
She said the protesters outside the room she's being held in were negotiating a price. I had to pay each of them to leave to be able to make it home safe to see my family. They negotiated to a settlement of $10 each.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness. It would appear that whatever worthless ass college this is needs to have a class on negotiations.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, dude. You might as well walk away with nothing.
Jeepers creepers.
Yeah. And it's just funny that this is even like controversial because, like I said, like those the polling on something like this, like more than, more than 3/4 of the country, like this isn't a controversial topic.
Yeah,
it just it's just like a small minority making such a big deal about it.
Yeah, but then it's so weird to me, man. It's so weird to me how they can get women to back destroying women.
Yeah, well, it's also weird to me how some like the Title IX, which is in place to like provide like funding to schools for like female sports, how like that is what got expanded upon instead of women's sports. It got the gender identity got thrown in there, I think by Obama and then again by Biden.
Yep.
And Trump's the one who's coming in and taking that out.
Yeah, stripping it out. He's like, no, this is for women.
Yeah, it's like
and you know what? I think what they need to do is just get to the end game and beat him to the punch. We should change all language in regards to this, away from women, men, away from any gender thing, away from any sex thing, and just go straight to chromosomes. If you're XX, you're in one category. If you're XY, you're in another. I don't care what drugs you take. I don't care what body parts you chop off. I don't care how you dress. I don't care about any of that. There's 2 categories, XX, XY.
Yeah, because like if you say it's such a small portion of the population, which it is, it's like at a certain point, it's like, I mean, sometimes there's hard truths to life, and like you just can't compete in a sport. Just the same way that like someone who's like in a wheelchair is never going to play in the NBA.
We don't even have to go that extreme. You and I are never going to play in the NBA.
That is true.
How many Jewish people play in the NBA?
Good question. Probably not that many.
Is there any?
None that I know.
The NBA is so racist.
But yeah, exactly. It's all black.
They need to start a Jewish recruitment program to have equal representation for the Jews in the basketball arena.
Yeah, so that's something that's like been crazy.
And then I would even tell you that when somebody like me, like let's say, I think they should be forced to allow me to play in the NBA, and then when I run down towards the hoop, I want a motorized thing on it, and there's a guy there, and he has to lower it down to 6 feet for me, so I can dunk.
Amen.
Yeah, that'd be fair. Yeah. That'd be equality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So got a little bit off topic there. Do you still have time?
Let's keep this thing going. This is fun.
So we'll I'm sure we'll go on. We'll find other tangents, but we'll go back.
We should just. I think we found the new name of this. I think the name of our podcast should be Tangent.
Yeah, just Tangent. Because we're an hour in, and
we haven't even gotten to what you typed.
We don't follow the script strictly, but it's an outline, and we're like still on page 1, so we spent an hour on like half a page.
Yeah. Let's go. All right, I think that's the name of our podcast, Tangent.
Yeah. So back to USAID. I'm not sure how we got so off topic.
Yeah. Me. It's always me.
But there's
ADD.
There's theoretical like intentions to it, and so I'll list off a few.
All right.
And we'll see kind of how we've gotten off track.
All right.
Like humanitarian assistance is one. So that's if like there's any kind of natural disasters that we're providing emergency relief. So whether it's like a hurricane or earthquake in different countries, we're sending money there. And that's kind of building up basically some soft power. So just like goodwill. So we're just building up goodwill across the world. So
that's a theory.
To give
that's a theory.
America
a theory. Have you ever met anybody getting a handout that has goodwill towards the person giving it to them?
Not that much.
It's actually in the book, The 48 Laws of Power. All right. When you have 2 people, right? So let's say there's you and there's me. Okay. And I call you up and I ask if you're willing to come help me move. And you come over to my home and you help me move. Who does that create the feelings of friendship towards? Does it create it from you to me as the person helping me move, or does it create it from me to you as the person who's having you help me move?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm going to guess in this case it's supposed to be me to you. Like
people would think if you're on the receiving end of someone helping you, that would create positive feelings from the person being helped to the person helping them. It does not do that. It's the reverse. It creates the feelings of goodwill from the person who's doing the helping to the person being helped. Because ultimately, subconsciously, there's not a single human that wants to be in the debt of someone else and wants to be a beggar to someone else.
That makes sense.
And so all you actually build is resentment. And you can see it in all the different social programs that we have in America. Because I don't know about you, but I see a lot of resentment.
Yeah, I do too. So
anyways, good theory. I think it's bullshit.
And I think a lot of these could be argued as that. Like
Yeah,
another example of like potential use money is for economic development. So you get companies that are emerging or struggling, maybe we kind of pump money there to try to spur some kind of growth.
Some kind of growth.
The long-term effect would be like, okay, well, maybe we have a better trading partner now. And so, and again, the goodwill.
Also bullshit.
Health initiative. So, HIV, AIDS breaking around the world.
Yeah.
Go in there, help them out with that. I know George Bush did something with that. And so could be argued as good, could be argued as a waste. I mean, it depends on how you view it. Democracy and governance. So we're trying to keep, kind of the democratic vibe around the country or around the world instead of like some of these nations that we consider adversaries, like a China, North Korea. So trying to keep countries.
Is hey, what's better than fighting on your principles to get people to align with you versus paying them off?
Yeah,
because that's really spreading democracy. Like instead of me taking the effort,
it sounds like something that liberals would hate if Trump was like pushing.
Oh, absolutely,
some kind of his
absolutely. Imagine if Trump took all these bullshit reasonings and said, we're going to start pumping money into Russia in order to build them up economically, prevent China influence, do a bunch of humanitarian things, end the war in Ukraine.
Yep.
He'd just be in the pocket of Putin.
Yeah, if you flip the script, doesn't sound so good. And then a couple others, just education, environmental sustainability, and then just like stabilization around the world. And so all these...
all bullshit.
Really, I guess the primary thing would be like the goodwill that you're building, which it's
again.
kinda,
So I've been on the front line of U.S. programs distributed in cash in third world countries. Not a single one of those things is ever accomplished. I've never once, and I've handed over millions and millions of dollars. I used to hand over $500,000 blocks of cash at a time, wrapped in cellophane. 500,000 at a time.
So who's taking the money? Like
who do you think takes the money?
I'm guessing someone who's not supposed to have it.
See, here, I love people that live over here, and they think that the entire world functions and operates like this. In fact, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I've been reading this book called The Weirdest People, and weird is an acronym for Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. And it links everything about our Western culture back to a very simple thing, which is literacy, which actually stemmed from Protestant religions. Before Protestant religions, we had about a 10% on average literacy rate throughout the world. With the rise of Protestantism and the need for people to develop a personal relationship with God, which came through reading the Bible, literacy skyrocketed. And it rewired our neural pathways and drastically changed us as a people. The problem is this did not happen throughout the rest of the world. So we function very differently over here, and it's wild all the different ways in which it impacts us. Consistency of relationships, honesty in relationships. There's actually an index that ranks countries on how corrupt they are. All right, you should check it out. It's pretty wild. But basically, these countries do not function the way they do. So we would have people come we would go set up shop in a building, a house. All the people who are doing the work, clearing out canals, grading streets, doing the Build Back Better jobs, okay? They would all line up. They'd get their cash payment. They'd walk out the back door. There'd be somebody waiting for them. They would take their portion. They would then hang a left and go to the corner house where there's another person waiting for them. They'd take their cut. Then they'd turn another left and go up to the front corner of the house, and there'd be another person take their cut. And then they'd get to go home. Like, you know, we have a really crazy law that states that U.S. companies operating in foreign countries are not allowed to engage in bribery of government officials. Why is that law so insane? Why would I say that law is insane?
Just because in those countries, probably just the way of doing business.
That's literally exactly the way you do business.
Yeah.
All right. One of the greatest cons ever pulled off was the Eiffel Tower got sold twice. And it's not for sale. Really? It was actually built to be a temporary structure for one of the world fairs. This ingenious con man drafted up all these fake documents, presented himself as a government employee, and then he sold it to a steel magnate over there as scrap metal. In the hotel room, when they were trying to finalize the deal, he started to sense that he was losing the deal because the steel magnate did not trust that he had the authority to sell the Eiffel Tower because he had not yet done the one thing any government employee would do. What do you think that was? Ask for a bribe. He hadn't asked for a bribe.
That's crazy.
Because the whole thing was a scam. It was all going in his pocket. He didn't think he needed to ask for a bribe. But he realized in the moment that any real government employee would never allow this transaction to occur without lining their own pocket. Just think about that for a second.
You got to play the part.
You do. And so he hinted around at needing a bribe. The guy then felt confident enough that this was an actual government employee, paid him the bribe, bought the fucking Eiffel Tower. The guy bails. The steel magnate finds out he got fucked. But he can't let it out that he just got taken. He's supposed to be the shrewd businessman. And the harm to his reputation would be so high if he did. So you know what he did? I kind of gave it away in the lead, right? I told you it's been sold twice. Again? That motherfucker sold it himself to somebody.
That's wild.
He used all the same documentation that had been forged and created fraudulently.
All the work was already done.
All the work was already done. He just turned around and sold it to somebody else. I'd love to know if he turned a profit on it.
Well, I mean, the fact that he was able to sell it again, I didn't know about that. If he's able to sell it again, I mean, even if he took a loss, I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, but anyways, so like one, the way that business is done almost all over the world is bribery. There's another great story of Marriott when they first went into India. All the headaches and problems and over budgets and overtime it took them because nobody shows up on time, according by white people time, and nobody does anything without lining their own pocket, right? So you just see this through all these countries and stuff, and so it's just funny when we think USAID, when we think this money, we think this food. I mean, that's the whole. Remember Black Hawk Down, Somalia, right? The warlord was taking all the aid the UN was pumping in there and turning around and selling it on the black market. Yep. Like, what do you think's going to happen? I don't know. It just blows my mind. It's all USAID's entire premise is bullshit. Every single last aspect of it. In fact, I think it's been proven 65% of all the money was going to their own rent. Like the employees of USAID to like rent places in Europe and shit. And I shouldn't say that without pulling up the story on it, but
I think we got a lot of stuff out of the way earlier, even though still a lot left here. But
and I think we should name this Tangent.
Yeah, we might have to. We might have to. So earlier we talked about USAID. I think we went fully on depth on that. So I think we're good to go from there. I think we kind of agree that more likely not mostly wasted. But another thing that's garnered a lot of attention for DOGE and Elon Musk is this whole thing with Social Security. Of course, it's something that people on the left are going to push as Trump and Musk wanting to cut Social Security, Medicaid, et cetera, all these government benefit programs. And in reality, is that really the case? No. But so in the past few weeks, Elon Musk and DOGE just kind of gone through pretty much all of the beneficiaries of Social Security.
Yes.
They noticed some kind of weird things in there, including, people above the age 100, several million of them. I want to say it was something like over 20 million in total. And there's people on the left arguing that, that's just a glitch in the software. Like if you don't put in a date of birth, it'll automatically set your birth date as being in 1875. So that's how you get a bunch of 150-year-olds. If that is true, well then, I'd like to have someone explain where the other 19 million people come from that aren't 150 years old in that system, but also way above any real livable age.
Yeah, but when they're what they're saying though is that these are all just records. None of those people are actually supposedly collecting Social
Well, that's what we're
Security.
finding out, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, and when I'm like, who cares, right? Like, I got news for you. If you have millions of people, even if they're not collecting or collecting, that are still in your system, however incorrect or not incorrect, like you need to clean that shit up.
I agree. Well,
Right.
talk about like a breeding ground for potential fraud.
Yeah, of course.
Like if it's already so messy, then I mean, shit. Like how are we really stopping this? Especially when any kind of like audits done previously are just more manual. I think it would be interesting to see exactly how much we can uncover with DOGE and AI. But I agree. Like it shouldn't be that way. And I want to say, I have to pull up the numbers, but I want to say it was roughly like 20 million people above livable ages. And let's just say 1 million out of those 20 million are still receiving payments. And that's still billions of dollars that you're talking about in fraudulent payments. So whether that's like
No, I read an article recently and talked about, I mean, there's literally audits being done all the time, and they're constantly finding fraudulent payments being made. And then they set about to try and recover that, right? In 2018, the Social Security Administration recovered approximately $4 billion in overpayments. I mean, a notable case involving Eric C. Kahn, an attorney who orchestrated a massive Social Security fraud scheme, cost the government $550 million. He was sentenced to 27 years in prison. So, and I read this article that talked about how there was like some crazy number that was discovered to be fraudulent. They were able to recover a very small percentage of it. I mean, because I got news for you. Like, when you send money out to most people on Social Security, that shit's spent.
Oh yeah, like how do you recover money that's like already out of their hands?
Yeah, stop paying them future payments.
You know damn well the people.
But if they weren't supposed to get them, then how do you stop their payments they're not supposed to be getting it anyway, right? So you stop the payments they're not supposed to be getting. That's not recovering anything.
Yeah, well, exactly. And like I'm pretty sure people who knowingly are using those fraudulent payments are definitely going to spend it right away. And so. And I always take the stance that any money being wasted, which I would consider this waste and fraud, that's like any money we can save, let's just do it.
Of course.
I'm so tired of the mindset of, oh, it's not a big deal. This isn't enough money here, not enough money there.
Yeah. So here you go. Ready? So between 2015 and 2022, they're going to tell, obviously this is a very tiny number. It's only $72 billion in improper payments. Now, I mean, over a 7-year period of time, that's only $10 billion a year. I mean,
only $10
in the
billion.
grand scheme of things, yes, that is nothing, but I am with you where I don't care how little it is. It shouldn't be happening, right? And I guarantee if there's ever anybody that could fix this system to where it didn't happen, it's Elon.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it, $10 billion a year, you get 100 of those, that's $1 trillion a year.
Absolutely. And what they're saying is that by the end of 2023, approximately $23 billion of these overpayments remained uncollected. So they're saying out of
that 70-some million,
yes,
that 20 billion are just not touched or what?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's kind of interesting, but efforts to enhance recovery have shown some success. A 5-month pilot program by the U.S. Department of Treasury in collaboration with the SSA's full death master file prevented and recovered over $31 million in improper payments to dead people. So, and then I love this bullshit, right? This is what I love. And you're going to see this done all over, and people need to be very aware of this. So they report that this initiative projects a net benefit of $215 million over 3 years. So they recovered over $31 million in improper payments. in 5 months in the pilot program. So the question here is, right, because they're doing this all the time. I'd like to know, they think that over the next 3 years, they're going to find 215 million more in improper payments, or are they stating that the little bit they did results in because it stopped those fraudulent payments, it stops 215 million from going out the door?
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to see this when they talk about cuts. Democrats call a cut a reduction of growth. So if a program is set to expand by 10% every year over 10 years, and Republicans present a bill that reduces the expansion from 10% per year to 8%, Democrats will claim the Republicans are cutting the program. They're not reducing anything that's currently being paid. They're just saying this program can't continue to grow at such a high rate. We need to scale the growth back.
Yeah.
And that's presented as a cut by the left. And so that's one thing. I searched this and I could not find anywhere that talked about it, because all these stories talk about Republicans trying to cut Medicare and Medicaid, and not a single one would actually specify what the cuts were.
We'll see. Yeah, that's what I get confused about, because I keep hearing people say that, but I haven't seen like one instance of how they're actually cutting Medicare.
Exactly.
And I'm reading this. Let's see. The Social Security Administration Office of Inspector General reported that less than 1% of the $8.6 trillion dispersed between 2015 and 2022 were improper payments, which include payments of deceased individuals. But 1% of $8.6 trillion, that's like similar to that number that you're bringing up, that $70 billion. It's like, that's a ton of money.
Right?
A ton of money. And like, I mean, me being skeptical, I'm feeling like that number's probably even bigger. So I would say like the base case would be that 7 or 8 million. I would imagine in reality it's quite a bit larger.
Yeah. Again, okay. So this is it. So I just asked ChatGPT, and maybe this is going to be the new version of Wikipedia, right? Where just because ChatGPT it doesn't say, right? But so I just asked, and they give you links. So I just so again, when I first asked it what cuts to Medicare Republicans proposing, it gave me the same bullshit every other news story does. To reduce federal Medicaid spending by approximately $880 billion over the next decade, this proposal could result in an average loss of $2 billion per congressional district and potentially eliminate coverage for 15.9 million individuals nationwide. All right. Now, I then asked, is it a reduction of growth or an actual cut to current funding? The proposed changes to Medicare and Medicaid by Republicans primarily focus on reducing the growth of spending rather than immediate cuts to current funding levels. This means that while overall spending may still increase, it would do so at a slower rate than previously projected. This is what they do every fucking time. And not a single journalist has the fortitude or the integrity to actually report it this way. Because they're not journalists. They're political operatives for the most part.
Yeah. And like I still struggle like using ChatGPT, using Google, trying to find all these sources, like any actual instances of intentions of cutting Social Security. I'm still struggling to find anything actually pointing towards that.
Yeah. And then here it even says, so far, no explicit cuts to current Medicare funding have been proposed. Some Republican leaders have suggested raising the eligibility age or adjusting provider payments to control future costs. Yeah. So, again, it's just blatant dishonesty, but, you know. And then I love this. The Guardian, nearly 40% of contracts canceled by DOGE are expected to produce no savings. Is that Common Core math? I'm going to cut 40% of what you're spending, And that's not going to save you anything. Yeah, I got to click on that one.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what the rationale is.
"48 minutes ago, Trump reinstated a rule requiring cost transparency in healthcare. The rule requires hospitals to publish online the prices for some of their most common services." I knew he was Hitler. I knew it.
Yeah, it's wild. There's just some things that are universally pretty good. I would say that's one of them.
Right? Nowhere near. Maybe I don't know how Guardian works. I clicked on their link, and there's nothing in here about.
And like, yeah, because the only thing that could be seen as reducing benefits is the exemption of those benefits from taxes. But in reality, that's more so.
So here's what's amazing, right? Ready for this one? Here's Axios. President Trump himself has teased a balanced budget an impossibility without historic cuts to America's most popular programs such as Social Security. So they're literally acknowledging that there is no possible way to stop the mounting debt without cutting these programs. Right? It says the proposed cuts are but drips of water in America's overflowing bucket of debt, $36 trillion and counting. In fact, most days, America racks up more interest on its debt, $3 billion per day, than DOGE can find in savings.
I hate that argument.
Oh, I know. Well, it's just an argument to not do anything.
The stupidest argument.
Yeah, let's not, like, I'm in a boat, it's flooding. No, don't waste your time trying to patch the holes. Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's very stupid. That kind of argument makes no sense. And yeah, like I said, I think the only thing that could possibly be perceived as cutting benefits is just taking away the taxes on those benefits. So in reality, he's cutting benefits by letting people keep more of their benefits.
Yeah.
Because personally, I'm also only 27, but pretty indifferent on the exemption of taxes for these benefits. Because, that trust that's like holding these, funds that are set to be paid out for Social Security, it's going to run out anyways. So it's not like those taxes are going to.
Okay, here we go. Okay. I love this one because every fucking commie, pinko, leftist internet troller on social media always is like, you don't need to cut the budget. You need to tax the billionaires. Okay, you ready for this one? If you took every dollar from every billionaire who's a U.S. citizen, every one of them, how long would you fund the federal government?
Sadly, probably not that long. How long?
Less than a year. 314 days to be exact. It's about 5.5 trillion. First off, you would never. First off, here. Let me. For all you people out there that went to public education, have no fucking idea how it works. If you stripped all their wealth, that means you have to sell all their stock because most of their wealth is all tied up in stock. Yep. The minute you start doing that 5.5 trillion evaporates. The values shrink rapidly. Okay? Hang on. So, if the U.S. government attempted to liquidate the $5.5 trillion in billionaire wealth, primarily tied up in stocks, real estate, and businesses, it would trigger massive economic chaos, massive selling pressure, huge portion of it. So prices plummet. There'd be an oversupply, panic selling. You'd have all these businesses collapse. You'd have mass unemployment. Real estate values would collapse, which would really help all the commie bastards that then they'd all be able to go afford to buy a home, I guess. So to try and seize and liquidate all billionaire wealth would likely wipe out much of the U.S. economy before even funding the government for 1 year. The stock market crash alone could erase far more than $5.5 trillion in lost value across the economy. It's a classic case of killing the golden goose. The money looks tempting, but taking it would likely do more harm than good. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
But let's just say you could somehow capture their $5.5 trillion. You have 314 days of funding the federal government. Now what, fucks? Who's paying for all your free health care? Who's paying for all your WIC, your food stamps, your Section 8 housing, your Social Security, your Medicare, your Medicaid, your VA benefits, all of it? Who's paying for it? Because 314 days later, not only is your government broke again, so is pretty much the economic engine of America.
Yeah. Yeah. And another argument that I hate.
Enjoy your communes with hairy armpits.
Another argument that I hate hearing, though, along the lines of the billionaire argument, it's like people trying to say, oh, well, this billionaire doesn't pay his fair share. That billionaire doesn't. Oh, yeah. It's like if they were really evading their taxes, they'd be in serious trouble.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it's such a stupid argument.
Yeah, because if you, no, it is. It's ignorant, right? What should you do? It's the same thing that like I find really hilarious to all these things. If you don't like the illegal immigration, right? If you're governor of Maine, right, and you're a Democrat, and you want to claim that you have some right to violate federal law in regards to our border, right, and house all the undocumented illegals, why don't you work with all your other Democrats to change the law? Why didn't Obama, when he was in office, or Joe Biden, or Bill Clinton, make it to where it was legal to enter the country undocumented? I mean, for 50 years, do you know 1992 was the first time in 50 years Republicans gained control of the House? 50 years of total Democrat control. How is it possible that there's still a law that prevents somebody from entering our country if you all think it's so sacrosanct?
Yeah, I think things are a little bit different back then, though, for sure.
Yeah.
It is crazy to see like the same people today that are, hating on Trump for his immigration policies, that they sounded quite a bit like Trump back in the day.
Oh, absolutely.
So
all of them did. So that's what's funny is everybody wants to say that Ronald Reagan started the Let's Make America Great Again, and he did. Then Bill Clinton used Make America Great Again economically, educationally, all that. He used it. Now Trump uses it, but Trump's a fascist Nazi. I literally got this comparison of Trump to Hitler, and I've seen it floating around on social media. And one of the reasons why is because he speaks to making America great again. I'm like, so was Bill Clinton Hitler? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty far stretch when you're the president of the United States to have a slogan of, making your country great.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's again. It's because you said again. You're holding back to its racist, genocidal, anti-woman. We didn't allow women to have penises back then. So you're anti-woman.
Yeah, man. Pro-choice. You want a cock, you can have a cock, bro.
Pro-choice?
Bro.
Pro-choice.
Yeah, I mean, you can become a bro, too, yeah. Yeah.
I'm pro-choice.
That's fair.
Yeah. And our name doesn't work. There's already numerous podcasts named Tangent, so we got to come up with a different one.
So far, OWLFI podcast is still safe.
Still safe.
Let's see. So,
what's next up in the lineup?
Well, actually, I think this one is actually pretty good.
And we have like a couple minutes. I gotta go.
One thing that I think would be interesting is this DOGE and Elon wanted to audit the Fort Knox space.
Yeah,
the gold. And I thought that was actually super interesting because it's been, I believe, about 50 years since it was last audited. The last one took place from 1974 to 1986. So, for whatever reason, it takes 12 years to do it. I mean, there is a lot of gold there. And so there's been some conspiracy theories just fueled by the fact that it's been so long since it's been audited. And then also, last time it was audited, there was a few audit reports, I think 7 in total, that went missing. And so, therefore, only like 97% of the gold is covered in an audit. So the last 3% people don't know what happened to that. If it's some kind of inside job there.
Did you say the last major audit was 1953?
No, 1974 through.
Oh, that was a partial inspection.
Yeah. So, 1974 was the last comprehensive audit.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so I think since then there's been, I guess what you call partial audits, but they didn't go through all of it. Which, if you're not auditing the whole thing, then it really doesn't count.
Yeah, we're just going to partially audit the section that's still there.
Yeah,
we're going to not audit the part that was stolen.
And go ahead.
No, well, this is just saying that there was a limited audit in 74. It was not a full-scale audit of all the gold reserves at Fort Knox. In September 74, a delegation, including journalists, Congress members, the U.S. Mint Director, gave a rare tour inside the vault to dispel rumors the gold was missing. This was the first public viewing of the gold since 1953. While they saw a portion of the gold reserves and confirmed its existence, this was more of a photo op and a public relations move than an audit.
Yeah, well, I think that might have sparked the audit because the audit was not just like a one-day
instead
event.
A more technical audit followed where a small sample of the gold bars, 5%, was tested for purity and weight. However, a full independent audit of all the gold in Fort Knox has never been conducted.
Let's see. I'm pretty certain that they did a full audit. I mean, I don't think they would have tested every single gold bar for purity, but I think probably as part of that.
I mean, what do you think would have to be a full audit? Because, I mean, I don't know. We should go get a job there.
Yeah, because Elon Musk floated the idea of just live streaming it, which I don't think will ever happen, but I think it'd be cool. And
what do you think their reason for not showing it to everybody is?
The reason is basically just the gold hasn't gone anywhere. We spent apparently 12 years doing it, like the last audit, so it'd just be a waste of time.
The last audit took 12 years to do?
Yeah.
I just think they should just set up Wi-Fi inside and put cameras on it and open up a website where you can just click in and go look and just look at the camera on the gold.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it'd just be funny. It wouldn't cost much. I'm sure the government could turn that into a $1 million project, but really, for $100, you could probably pull that off.
Easy, just like anything else in government.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's so inflated.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. And it's getting support from multiple senators, and I think that's something Trump would even be on board with. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any foul play. If there's not any foul play, then we'll move on.
Yeah, of course.
I don't see much wrong with a little transparency, especially. I feel like with DOGE, everything moves so quick. You can't give me the argument that it's going to take too much time or it's going to be too expensive. I won't buy into that because at this point, nothing is too expensive, apparently. So
clearly,
I don't really buy that. Do you still have any more time or?
No. I probably got to get running.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and cut it off here.
All right. Sweet.
Shall we continue?
Let's continue. Let's get it on.
All right. Third time continuing, or I guess third part 3. So yesterday, I think we ended around the conversation about Fort Knox.
Yeah.
So just a couple other things I want to cover about DOGE, including Elon Musk's desire to audit pretty much like most members of Congress, at least those with such a high net worth. And there's some in Congress that, have a reason for a high net worth. They're not all lifetime government employees. Some of them came into Congress with a lot of wealth, but looking at the data as of 2018, because this stuff isn't always publicly available, the median net worth of members of Senate was $1.76 million. And so this is several years ago. And for House of Representatives, $511,000. And so as a median, it's quite high. but it's not anything absurd. But there are several members of Congress that have net worths of over 100 million. I know there's some that you see someone like Nancy Pelosi. You have whole Instagram pages that are dedicated to tracking Nancy Pelosi's stock trades, just because like there's some thought behind Nancy's investment strategies, whether or not she's using some inside information or not. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's even deeper and crazier than that, right? And it's good you mentioned Nancy Pelosi, right? And I'm trying to find there's a diehard left-wing Democrat liberal named Michael Schellenberger, and he wrote two pretty amazing books that I like. One is called Apocalypse Never, and then the other one is called San Francisco. All right. And in Apocalypse Never, he explains how Jerry Brown's father, when he was governor of California in the 50s, after he left his governorship, he became a consultant, and he brokered a deal to bring oil from like Indo-Asia or somewhere into California. He also, while he was governor, appointed Gavin Newsom's father to the federal bench. Later, the state of Alaska tried to get their oil to come into California, and Gavin Newsom's father was the judge that ruled against them being able to do so. Well, who do you think? All three of these families, the Browns, the Newsoms, and the Pelosi's, all do business together and have for decades profited off of oil coming into California, while at the same time actively working to shut down coal plants, nuclear power plants, and everything else, while at the same time holding themselves out to be environmentalists, actively working against, and I don't like calling oil fossil fuel, but actively working against, fuel types such as coal and oil. So it's all found, and one of the amazing things about the book, Apocalypse Never, it's about 750 pages, 500 of which is what he writes, 250 which is annotations and sources. It's extremely well sourced.
Yeah,
so
we appreciate that.
Yeah, and so it's like, I think you got to go even beyond them using insider information to do stock trades. And then they're going to claim, well, it's my spouse's account. Bullshit, right? There's no separation. It's not like some Chinese wall. You let us say it anymore. Between, Nancy Pelosi and her husband, right?
Oh, definitely not. They're just one entity at that point.
Yeah, and then and I hate the term public servant. I also don't like the term volunteer army. Ain't nobody volunteering to be in the army. I'm ex-military. I didn't volunteer to be in it. Sure, I signed up with my own free will. That's like, are you a volunteer employee of OWLFI?
I got to pay my bills.
So you got to pay your bills. You get paid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, ain't nobody volunteering for shit. We're getting paid.
Amen.
Right? And by the way, people in the military are compensated very, very well. All right? Not as well as politicians, apparently. Okay, but then you look at these politicians and they claim to be public servants, and people report about them as public servants. Oddly enough, it's usually when they're talking about a Democrat. But you ain't a public servant. You're a public leech. If your wealth and your paycheck and your way of living through tax dollars enables you to live better than the median, I think something's wrong. And I would love to go back to the day. Did you ever look at what politicians used to get paid?
Let's look it up. Do you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How much?
When they first started, they received a stipend of about $1,300 a year.
So it was very much kind of like in addition to whatever they do outside of.
You're supposed to work a job.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be a productive, contributing member of society who's working a legitimate, real job. Look at Joe Biden. Or Bernie Sanders. Them motherfuckers ain't done shit ever in their life that was real.
Yeah.
They've just been leeches off the American public.
And
How can you possibly represent people that have to go actually work and produce and have KPIs, right? Your ass gets bent over having to email 5 fucking things you did in a week. The rest of us have to actually show up and perform. And if we don't perform and the market doesn't like what we do, we lose our job, we lose our income. They're not held to that standard. I mean, seriously, think about this, right? Have you ever seen the video of Rep. Johnson from Georgia interrogating a 4-star admiral about putting more soldiers on Guam? You guys got to go out and check this video out. This guy is so fucking stupid that he thought that by adding about 6,000 more soldiers to the island of Guam with their families, that the additional weight on that one end where the military base is would cause Guam to capsize. This is not a joke.
That's an interesting take.
Right? Somebody skipped a lot of school. I mean, I skipped all of school. Like, my ass never paid attention and never showed up. My parents got a midterm once that had me absent for 41 out of a possible 41 days. I still understand that islands aren't floating in the freaking ocean and are going to capsize by putting weight on one end of them. This guy's gotten reelected continually ever since. These are not the best and the brightest people.
Oh, definitely
All they
not.
have to do is get whatever group of dumbasses are in their area to vote for them. And once they get in, the system keeps them in.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I feel like just when you got that name, you just keep getting
Yeah.
reelected.
So it's not like you get to sit there and say, hey, you know, I'm a high achieving person. I've done all this in the business world, and it's why I went into public service. And my wealth comes from my ability, my intelligence, my merit, my ability to achieve. No, you're so stupid you think an island's going to capsize. And somehow you attain becoming a millionaire?
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to call bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think,
But how do you stop them, not just from doing the insider trading with stocks? How do you stop them from doing things like what the Pelosi's, the Newsoms, and the Browns did?
it's tough. I mean, you definitely start with transparency on everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've got to be I think if you're a public leech, every single, have you seen the reporting? All they have to do is state it's this crazy window. Like, I have between $50,000 and $500,000 of something. Well, I mean, that's a huge spread.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're in public office, every single thing about your financial situation should have to be divulged.
Yeah.
And I'm going to even, and I know that Trump, just to be fair, right? Trump refused to ever release his tax returns, always used the bullshit of being under an audit, right? And so then here, this creates another problem, right? Like, I don't want the Bernie Sanders and the Joe Bidens. I don't want these guys that have never done anything in the real world getting elected at a young age and then riding the next 50, 60 years of their life leeching off of us. But if I've gone out there in the business world and I've become a very successful business owner, am I going to be willing to open that all up for scrutiny, knowing that there is this like demonic horde on the other side that is going to twist? I mean, literally, like, I don't know if you saw the videos of Elon walking off the stage at CPAC, but they selectively edit.
Oh yeah, with his child,
to show this gap. So they skip the part where he turns and goes back for his son when his son doesn't. When his son takes a hard right and stays on stage, he goes back. He calls him over. They cut that part out. They start with him walking on the steps, so it looks like his son's still with him because he had gone and gotten him.
yeah,
Then as he walks down the steps and away, his son gets further and further behind him, and then they stop at the furthest gap. That's what they put out on Twitter. That's what they attack him over. But if you watch the whole clip, his son tries to run off on the stage. He goes, gets him. They go down the steps. The distance between them spreads. Elon looks back over his shoulder, sees his son has gotten away from him again. He turns around and he, like, really lovingly and playfully calls him back over to him. I mean, that whole thing is this wonderful scene of a father and son. And somehow the demonic hordes on the left selectively edit out the front and the end of that.
Yeah.
And not only are they doing that in a situation like that, I mean, we already know that they did it for Kamala Harris's interview.
Yeah.
They'll selectively edit them to make them look good. They'll selectively edit us to make us look bad.
Yeah. And it reminds me of back when Joe Biden was running and the whole cheap fake situation. But like one video in particular is like at some campaign event with Barack Obama. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but like Barack Obama, basically, like Joe Biden's like freezing on stage.
Yeah.
And Barack Obama has to come
guide him off the stage.
And the left had kind of accused, the right of manipulating the video.
Yes.
And they're like, well, you gotta see the full video. And then the full video gets released and it's like, exactly.
It's exactly what
like what
said.
you mean. Like he literally froze on stage.
Yeah.
And Barack Obama just came up, grabbed him and just like dragged him off stage.
Yeah, see, and so
the full video.
Yes, and I know we're off on a tangent, which we always do, but this is one of the things that absolutely drives me nuts, right? So for years, conservatives were pointing out the cognitive decline of Joe Biden. For years, we were called liars, manipulators, assholes. He has a stutter. Really? That's a stutter? I've met people with stutters. One of my favorite comedians has a stutter. That ain't a stutter, right?
Definitely not.
And then it all gets revealed to be true. And not a single one of the lying piece of shit supposed journalists or politicians that sat there for years and bold-faced lied to us about all of it ever have to go back and issue a mea culpa. They're never held accountable, ever. It's just we're on to the next news cycle about planes crashing.
Oh, yeah.
Just like we were a couple of years ago about trains crashing. It's just like, I swear there's like a Rolodex of bullshit that anytime they need to shift opinion, oh crap, we need a new story. Flip through randomly. It's like that. What's that game? As a kid, you'd pull the string and the little arrow would turn around and it'd go on a different animal and it'd make a sound. It's like somewhere in journalism world, they have this machine and it's just, you pull it, it spins, train crashes. Pull it, it spins, plane crashes. Just whatever
random shit,
dumb shit to distract you. I mean, that's how it seems. But no, I think they need to make. I think if you're wanting to go into public service, and I'm including Trump in this one, right? You better be willing to make everything wide open.
You gotta be willing to make it public.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not, there is a solution to that, which I don't think Trump did. I think he kind of did. I think he said he was willing to. And the solution is you transfer all your assets into a black box trust where there's a trustee, there's advisors, everybody else is managing other than you. Because you're not going to have, unless you're Elon, who seems to have time for anything and everything in a day, you're probably not going to have the time to continue to run your businesses. So you would set somebody else up to run those businesses. You would turn stuff over to them. You would create those separations between you and your business. Then I would say, don't make it public. You wouldn't have to. You're not the one doing the day-to-day shit, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know that would necessarily work either. I don't know what the solution is here, but
it's tricky.
It's like people shouldn't be able to do what the Pelosi's, the Browns, and the Newsoms did. People should not be able to do what Pelosi does with her stock trading. I think Trump should have been more transparent. But when you're faced with people, but the flip side of that is, I'm faced with rabid, absolutely insane enemies that will do anything and everything. They will twist anything and everything. Nothing's ever good enough. And to anybody that thinks I'm full of shit, I always just tell them, go back to Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney is about the most honorable man to have been in politics in 50 years. He has grandchildren. His children speak Spanish. His grandchildren have adopted kids of different ethnic groups and from different countries. He's been wildly successful in business. There's not a single sexual scandal against him. Not a single woman has ever come forward to ever even hint or accuse him of anything. He donates more of his income to charity than any other politician. And yet, what did we get to hear about him? Harry Reid, the senior senator for the Democrats, stood on the floor of the Senate and said, I've heard from unnamed sources that Mitt Romney hasn't paid his taxes in 10 years. When Harry Reid was asked about that later by a reporter, and if he felt good about having tried to make Mitt Romney out to be a tax cheat when it was blatantly, obviously not true, Harry Reid's response was, Well, he didn't win, did he?
It's a dirty game.
Yeah. And so if that's your enemies, like, I don't know. I don't fault Trump for, like, I'm not giving you anything. And I don't have to, because whether I give it to you or whether I don't, your level of vitriol towards me doesn't change. I could have, it's like we already talked, did we talk about earlier in here, right? Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard for weeks. Everybody on the left talks about how they're only put there because they're sycophants to Trump and they will do anything he tells them to do. A week later, when every one of them directly goes against Trump and Musk and issues a directive to everybody they oversee not to respond to the email, then they're just held out to being in their own self-interests.
They're also spineless.
And spineless. Yeah. They're still spineless. They would have been spineless if they had done what Trump and Musk wanted. They'd be spineless if they don't. Like, so at some point, it's just amazing to me. It's like, how do you not realize we've gotten to just a place to where we look at you and just go like, fuck you. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think that's why all the legacy media that you see on TV, people don't care that much about anymore just because that's how it is.
Yeah, and they keep ramping it up.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing to me. You did this for 4 years. You did it for 4 years while he was in office. You did it for 4 years while he was out. You impeached the guy twice. You sued him 4 times. You've made him out to be Hitler since he came down the escalator. Like, how long can you beat the drum that he's Hitler before nobody gives a shit that you're telling everybody he's Hitler again? Like, it's like, did these kids' parents never read them any of the parables that my parents, like, I had these books, right, that would, like, The Boy Who Cried Wolf,
Yeah.
The Old Man and the Donkey, right? Like, like these parables that taught you, like, don't run around screaming everything's the fucking Chicken Little.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that a Disney movie?
Something like that. Yeah. And they could really, benefit from watching something like that. It's not that, like, it's like things are not that bad.
How about you calm your ass down?
Yeah, exactly.
And people might be more willing to listen to you.
Yeah. You gain a lot of credibility while also not having to push like such extreme rhetoric at the same time. It's like, dude, just chill out and you'd probably get better ratings.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. The media.
I know we went way off of the stock trading.
That's the whole point, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, moving on.
Yeah.
Another thing we want to talk about, I know you had some stuff you want to talk about it, but just some of these layoffs in these agencies that DOGE is doing.
Yes.
Obviously gaining some controversy. For example, a few of these agencies like IRS laying off around 7,500 people, maybe closer to 7,000. The CDC laying off about 10% of their workforce, which is about 1,300 people. The Department of Energy laying off anywhere between 12 to 2,000 people. And that's estimated probably to keep growing. So a lot of people are getting laid off. And the pushback on something like this is, all these people are losing jobs, these poor people, what are they going to do? Like, how are they going to support their families?
Yeah, I don't know.
And I get it. I know, like, my opinion on it is that that's like a pretty emotional argument.
Yes, it is.
Like, I don't want anybody, in a perfect world, I don't want anybody to be losing their jobs. But as I've stated, like, if we're going to have one lean machine in the country, it might as well be the government, because that's what our country depends on. That's what the world's depending on. And something tells me, just a wild thought, that these layoffs are going to do pretty much nothing overall to the government other than save money.
I think you're going to see the exact same thing that happened at X.
Exactly.
75% of the workforce gone. Last I checked, it's still up and running.
Yeah, dude. Like, it's working just fine. And I like, again, wild guess, but I would imagine you could lay off more people than this, and they'd be just fine.
Oh, absolutely.
Just start making things more efficient too. With all the AI, it's like, dude, let's start using as much AI as we can in government. Layoff is like, I'm sorry, but
we don't even have to go to AI, right? What's the story about Social Security? They're doing it by hand. We don't need to go to AI.
Start using a computer.
Let's go back to 1985, the IBM Select Write typewriter with a peripherals where you added a screen and you added a disk drive. That shit would be more advanced
100%
than what they're doing.
Yeah,
You're not even old enough to ever remember that. I'm so old.
My time.
That was the precursor to the personal computer. You would take your typewriter that had some kind of fucking memory in it. I don't even know if it was called RAM at the time, probably. And and there was this company, Electronic Modules, EMI, Electronic Modules Inc. out of Dallas, Texas. And they would sell you peripherals to attach to your typewriter. And it would allow you to basically see what you're typing on a screen. It was green and black. All right. And then you could hook up disk drives and shit to it. And then once you had typed and edited your letter, you could then hit print and the typewriter would type it all out for you. That's more advanced than what Social Security's using.
Yeah. And
which is according to the story about the elevator and the punch cards and the hand entries and all the rest of that shit, right?
I'm not even sure what the argument to having that in place even is. Having it like that. Because like, in my opinion, as with any business, there's got to be an argument for why anything's being done.
I'll tell you what the argument is. We would have to lay people off. Now, see, unlike you, I'm going to go the other direction. I love watching people get laid off. Not because I am an asshole who likes people suffering, but because I'm an asshole who likes people growing and developing, right? Like, that's the cold, hard truth about humanity and society and the world and nature that, like, half of this country refuses to acknowledge. They think you're supposed to have been born here. I love this saying that nobody's 40-hour work week should not pay them enough to pay for a home and food and health care. Well, how the hell could I ever ensure you made enough money to pay for those things? I can't control where you spend your money. I can't control to what level of all of that you're going to go direct your money towards. It's impossible. And it's like nature has all these systems to make everything better. Have you ever noticed none of those systems are positive? How does a forest become healthier?
Burning it down.
You burn it down. How does an animal population, what happens to the diseased and the sick and the infirm animals in an animal population? They get picked off by the predators.
Yeah.
Right? What happened during COVID? This is going to sound really horrible, but the people with the highest number of comorbidities were the ones most at risk. How many times did COVID kill you?
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. It killed me 0 times 2. Have I been vaxxed?
I'm guessing not.
Nope. Was I boosted? Nope.
How many boosters are there now?
Beats the shit out of me. I watched Joe Biden get like 7 of them. That guy got COVID like 29 times. For all you fact checkers, that's an exaggeration.
Yeah.
It's called sarcasm.
Yeah, back during COVID days, I got not the booster, but the regular shot just because it was mandated and I had to do it for my job.
Yeah, which
is bullshit. And then 2 months later, there's a company-wide email basically saying, "Oh, we're no longer doing it." I'm like, dude, like you mandated it. I think it was like January, and then it's like March 1st, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not doing it anymore."
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, we just mandated it. I just got my shot like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now it's not mandated.
Yeah.
You're like threatening me with my job, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And so my point is all of these things, whether it's disease tearing through a population of living creatures, humans, animals, or otherwise, whether it's predators picking off the weak, whether it's fires clearing out all the dead undergrowth and the underbrush and revitalizing a forest, or in business, it's economic forces causing you to get more creative, lay people off, retool, right? All these things are designed to make the marketplace more competitive and stronger. There is nothing like that for the government.
Definitely not.
And so all you're witnessing is the exact same thing. These are all needed things. You can't have a strong animal population if you allow the weak and the infirm to constantly grow. And to be honest with you, if you look at what's happening to humanity right now, a large part of it is because there's not enough things killing us off anymore, right? You look at obesity rates. I mean, if your ass had to run from a lion, you might not be 400 pounds. If you actually had to go work, if you had to go take a hoe out into a field and like till the ground, I'm willing to bet you're not going to weigh 400 pounds.
It'd be impossible, dude.
It would be.
Straight up.
Yeah. It would be. Yeah. Right? You know, as bad as the Middle East is, you know what I never saw in Iraq?
Fat people.
Obese people. Yeah. Got the men, older men would have a belly.
Well, yeah.
They'd have a belly. But there are no obese people.
And like the young, I'm guessing the young population.
Oh, not a single one of them is fat. I never saw a single one fat. Right? They're not out there with freaking diabetes type 2 running rampant. They don't have kids being born weighing 20 pounds with gestational diabetes. They don't have spiking rates of autism. Like, hey, guess what? When you actually have to struggle to survive, you are better for it, right? An organization that has to struggle to survive is better for it. If it isn't, you see these big companies grow and they get stagnated. They get layered with bureaucracy and rules. There's no creative thought. And what happens? A startup in a garage comes along and wipes them off the face of the earth. And all those people at that company lose their jobs, as well they should. Because I guarantee you they're showing up. They're doing the bare minimum. They're too afraid to like ever push and do anything creative and new. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how it should be.
Yeah.
And
so what's going on? And so let's, I don't know, at what point, I really want to get into the number of government agencies. Is this a good point to do it?
Yeah. I think it's such a hard number to find because like I was looking up the other day and ChatGPT was like, well, it's hard to get an exact number because like the definition gets a little gray in some of these agencies, whether it's like an official agency or not. But it was trying to estimate that it was like around 400. But I mean, first off, that's a lot. I'd like to know how many of those are like gray area where it's like, oh, we're not sure if this is officially an agency or not.
Yeah, so I've been experimenting around using ChatGPT, using Grok, using Perplexity. All right, I find they're like good for different things, right? So when I asked Grok, right, it said in the U.S. there's no single definitive count of federal agencies because, like you said, the term can encompass departments, interdependent agencies, commissions, sub-agencies. Over time, they're created, merged, dissolved. The Federal Register lists over 430 departments, agencies, and sub-agencies. As of recent years, the Administrative Conference of the United States identified 115 in the Sourcebook of United States Executive Agencies. US.gov lists 137 independent executive agencies with 268 units with cabinet departments. All right. And so this is just what like, right? So there's 15 cabinet departments, defense, state, treasury, and so on. Every one of them with their own branches. Inside the defense alone, you have the Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, right? Defense Intelligence Agency, DARPA, EPA, CIA, NSA. These are all FCC, SEC. I mean, it's endless, right? And I'm going to tell you like an actual personal story, right? So this is why what DOGE is doing is so important, right? So think of this, right? Federal employees reported approximately 3 million at the end of 2024, excluding postal workers and military personnel.
That's excluding?
Excluding.
Wow.
Excluding.
Wow.
Postal and military.
That's a whole lot of office workers right there.
That's a whole lot of office workers, all right? Now, all right, let me tell you how convoluted and bullshit this whole thing is, all right? So I'm overseas doing my job in the military. And I had developed pretty decent sources or whatever, right? And as far as I know, one of them, the head of the largest Islamic tribe in the world, I was the first U.S. representative to ever build a relationship with him. And that's a really fascinating story as to why the U.S. was overlooking them. But it just has to do, there was a guy named Ibrahim Muhari who betrayed the Al Jabbari tribe with Saddam in like the early 90s. And so Saddam executed him and a number of the members of this tribe and gave away a ton of their land. And he, and not Ibrahim Mahari, Ibrahim Mahari betrayed the tribe to Saddam. And so Saddam put Ibrahim Mahari in as the head of this tribe. And then when he passed on, his son took the role. But when we executed Saddam, right, the source of power backing the Muharis was now gone. And the United States was still operating and functioning as if that was still the seat of power for this tribe. Plus, the United States was trying to push all power to the parliamentary government we set up, and wanted to minimize the importance of the tribes, which is absolutely insane. Like, these have been tribal people for thousands of years. And you think you're going to come in there and in 10, 20 years, take them from being a tribal people to a westernized parliamentary government? I mean, good luck with that, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, the point of the story is I could get a flipper message, which is like a advanced GPS system inside your vehicle with encrypted texting. And so we can, while we're out, we receive communication, send communication back and forth between us and the Tactical Operations Command Center, or the TOC. While I'm out, I get a flipper message telling me that when I get back, I need to go into the TOC and talk to the command. And I'm like, okay. So we get back in, I go in there, and they toss me this letter. They've received a letter from the Central Intelligence Agency telling them that I have to cease and desist operations in this area and with my sources. And I just look at them, and they're like, do you want to quit? I'm like, are we not the Army? Like, aren't we the 900-pound gorilla? Like, fuck them guys. Like, you better show up here with more than a damn letter if you want me to quit running our ops. But right then and there, what is let you know, that lets you know that the military is running an op and the Central Intelligence Agency is running an op. They're overlapping, and thus far, there's no real communication. And sending a letter telling somebody to fuck off ain't communicating either. Then we received a letter from the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. They're running an op as well. And the CIA is running an op. And the military is running an op. All in the same area on the same people. Then I get a letter from the NSA. So you have the NSA, the DIA, and the CIA, and the DOD all running simultaneous ops. No one's communicating with each other. We're all trying to accomplish our own thing. And I'm just going like, this is an absolute shit show. And you think this is like, and I assure you, this is not an anomaly, right? There's no way when you have an entity that no one on fucking earth understands how many, I mean, they really can't even give you an exact list of employees. They can't tell you the exact amount of agencies, sub-agencies, quasi-agencies. They can't tell you any of this shit. No one can. And half of the country is super happy and thrilled about that and think it's a crime and that you're Nazis and Hitler if you want to unravel this beast, figure it out, hold them accountable, and make it more efficient. It's just nuts.
Yeah, definitely nuts. I mean, DOGE is definitely the thing I'm most excited about right now, because without something like DOGE, I don't see any future where America stays solvent.
No, you can't. We're spending more on interest than military.
Yep. That's only getting worse.
It's only getting worse. The interest that we're paying is projected to very quickly hit 50% of our federal budget. The interest.
It's messed up.
Right now, it's 15% of our federal budget. And I don't know if anybody understands on the left how compounding works, but it gets into a out of control snowball really fast.
Yeah. And on that, like, one thing, I don't think we've talked about much, but is that DOGE dividend check.
Yeah.
And so the proposal is,
yeah, $5,000 to everyone.
Well, 5,000 is a estimation.
Yeah. But so they want to take the money that they saved
20,
and turn around and send it back to America.
It'd be 20% of savings. And while in a perfect world, my opinion would be let's just put 100% to paying off the debt because what are we doing, wasting time?
Well, but it's not even that. See, my problem is it's not even there. Right? So if I'm, again, this is like Democrats trying to say we're trying to cut Medicaid. Right? We're not cutting Medicaid. We're reducing the amount by which it grows.
Well, yeah. And so we're reducing the
we're
amount
reducing the amount we're borrowing.
Which is effectively
that's not saving money.
Yeah.
It's kind of saving money. It's saving debt, but you don't have the money. There's no real money being saved.
But the reason why, so like in a perfect world,
so they're trying to buy votes. But go ahead. No, I'll shut up.
In my opinion, like in a perfect world, you don't do the dividend check because it makes no sense because you're giving out money that's
you're just
already
reducing
borrowed.
the amount of debt you're going to borrow.
But
that doesn't mean I have money to give to anybody.
The reason why I'm a fan of it is because like right now DOGE is controversial.
Correct.
And so in 2028, well, in 2028, if Kamala Harris wins or Michelle Obama wins, Gavin Newsom wins, they're going to like
completely
do the exact opposite.
Oh, they absolutely will.
But the reason why the DOGE dividend is such a good idea is because, I mean, we really shouldn't be giving that money out. But at the same time, you got to garner support of it. So that way it's like a long-term.
I do agree. You're totally correct on that front.
And so like, that's my opinion. Like I personally don't care about whether or not I receive the money.
Yeah.
But like we need to have more support.
You're like a 6-foot+ tall white male. I mean, you don't need money. It's you wake up
like that.
And it's deposited in your account.
Exactly. But yeah, that's why, in my opinion, it's like we have to do the DOGE dividend check because it's so controversial right now, and you got people on the left who absolutely hate it. But I guarantee you, there's enough people that as soon as they start,
absolutely,
I don't think it's gonna be $5,000. I think $5,000 is maybe off a projection of $1 trillion.
Yeah.
But let's say it's $2,000 or even anything over like 1,000.
No, it can seriously be $1,000.
They hit like if it's just 4 digits, if it hits their bank account. Boom! Like that would automatically.
This is yes. You're totally right. This is the thing that COVID taught me, right? So for years we've had this argument at reparations, right? And there's a small percentage of the country that's for them, and all the rest is against them. And the one thing I realized when COVID hit is if you promise free money to everybody, all of a sudden everybody's for it.
Yeah,
100%.
Well, exactly.
All your ideology, all your standards, all go right out the fucking window. You just turn into a leech like everybody else.
Yeah. Which is why I also like the DOGE dividend check because it's not like it wouldn't be like a recurring payment. This is just a one-time payment. And I like that. And then it's like, okay, well, if we continue to do this, maybe we'll have another payment or at least like incentivizing people. It's like if we can continue to further cut.
Yeah. Well, I do like the idea of like I think there's states or whatnot or proposals where when the state has a surplus, I think they were trying to do this in Kansas. When the state has a surplus, they return that money back to the people in the state, right? And I think that would, like that'd be a really cool thing if you were able to accomplish as a party getting a balanced budget, right? And you came in under and the tax revenue exceeded your budget. All that money is refunded back to everybody in America.
And I think an even better solution would be like a mixture. So kind of like how DOGE is doing 20%. I think if we ever got to that point where there's like a surplus, you give a portion, so maybe 20%, 40, whatever, and then put the rest into like It's like right now, like one thing that Trump's proposing is that I think we're going to talk about next podcast is that sovereign wealth fund. So it's like basically an investment account for the U.S. And so like if we could ever get to a point of a surplus, give some of it back to the people so they appreciate it like immediately. But then start putting money away because if you can start building up that wealth fund, then like this shit wouldn't be an issue down the road.
So you're right. Yeah, and that's why I think that Social Security Administration needs to create an ETF that mimics the S&P 500, and because it wouldn't be being bought and sold on an emotional fluctuation. There's no algorithm that's going to trigger a sell off if the market drops 6%. There's no person to say, "Oh, I'm scared of." I read some bullshit CNN story on tariffs causing inflation.
The ETF would track the market, and so like
it would, but I've done it's interesting. I think I've sent you all the math on this. That as the ETF gets, if the ETF, let's just say the ETF used the amount of money that's still in the Social Security Trust Fund, it becomes a market maker, and it would actually drastically cut the volatility of market. It actually balances the market and it smooths it out. So it doesn't really track the market. It starts to control the market. And it would actually limit volatility for everybody. And it could be a really incredible thing for the S&P 500 and for everybody who has 401ks and IRAs and all that.
But in order
it's really
to do that,
neat the way it works
wouldn't
out.
have to actually invest in the underlying stock.
According to the way in which we looked at this, by it creating it through an ETF, it would not have to still even that out.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if you can go back through that text message and look
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
information,
I know what
see,
you're
see
talking
if it's
about.
right or wrong.
I know what you're talking about.
So,
So
but it would definitely like smooth everything out.
I'm definitely a fan of that idea.
So-
And like I'm a fan of, like I said, we're talking about next podcast with that sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah,
Obviously, the hardest part is finding a way to fund it. But it's like if that was something that we started 20, 30, 40 years ago, basically this debt situation that we're in wouldn't even be a problem. So
yeah.
it's like, might as well start as soon as possible. But like I said, just an issue of finding the funding, which is why something like DOGE is so important in the first place. Let's see. And that's pretty much all like I had about DOGE. Because the only other thing that I had left was just
Yeah, so
stuff that we already talked about.
Here's the problem. The ETF uses your money you put into it to purchase the underlying stocks in proportion to the indexer strategy it follows. That's why putting money into an ETF increases demand and pulling money out decreases it.
Well, yeah, because it'd be
So if
fine.
you had a massive ETF with so first off, the biggest ETFs on the planet are the SPY and the Vanguard's version.
VU?
The VU.
Yeah.
They're only about $600 billion. You have 2.9 trillion sitting in Social Security. So you'd automatically become the largest ETF on the planet by a factor like 4 or 5,
Yeah.
right? And that such a size not being sold and not being traded in and out of on a day-to-day basis would literally smooth the markets.
Yeah. Except, like, there would be a pretty steady flow of inflow and outflow.
Well, the problem is the problem is the acceleration of the outflow. So this year we were negative $41 billion. The problem is that between now and 2033, that negative 41 gets so high it wipes out the 2.9, right? So if you'd actually done this, say in 1983 when they overhauled Social Security in the biggest, if we had created that ETF at that point in time,
beautiful.
there would be no shortage.
Yeah, it'd be like the same thing as a wealth fund that I was talking about. Same
Yes.
idea.
And so what they have to do, the only thing they really need to do is figure out how to overfund the ETF to get us through 2033.
Yeah, because at a certain point, it should like level off
Well,
theoretically.
especially as the baby boomers start to pass on and we go to the fewer numbered generations.
Exactly.
Then it would give the fund time to start to grow again.
Yeah.
So anyways, all right, sweet. Well, let's end on that note. So this is Elliot
Nathaniel?
signing off.